There's something about a winter morning after the snow has just fallen. A soft bed of powder snow coats the landscape. The sky glistens pastel pink as the sun begins to rise, the trees delicately embracing the weight of the freshly fallen snow. It just makes you want to sit calmly and... Wait, what are you doing?
Hello, hey, how's it going? So, in the last video, I gave you a tour around this amazing 189 square meter house that we managed to purchase in the middle of the Swedish woodland for around 1.3 million Swedish kronor, or blah blah blah. And if you haven't watched that video already, it's worth checking out. It was pretty interesting, and we managed to get to minus 14 degrees inside the house. Oh, holy mother of God. It has been quite the winter. And the reception of that video was incredible. We got so much positive feedback. We got so many good questions. We got so much advice and different experiences. And one question that came up quite a lot was, well, what about the land? Like, obviously we didn't just buy the house on its own, we bought land with it. And I didn't show you around the land in that last video because, well, the video was getting really long. There was a lot of information to digest already, and it was minus 22 degrees outside, and I just didn't want to go out in that cold for too long. So now, off the bat, here's what you need to know about the land. It's around 5,910 square meters, which is the equivalent to around 1¼ acres. It's nothing crazy, but it's something that we knew we would be able to manage, and is actually quite substantial for us at the moment. We're in zone 4, which I talked briefly about in the last video, but I'll get more into later on in the video. And then we have a number of external buildings, including a primary shed, a secondary shed, a wood shed, a little shed for our underground water pump. Then we have this Teletubby hill looking thing, which is really common in Sweden, but not so much in the UK and Ireland. So I'm going to get to it later on in this video, but if you know what it is, drop a comment down below. So I'm going to start off walking you around the house. So we have the kitchen in here, we have the front room in here, the landing up there, the upstairs bathroom with all the problems that you saw in the last video there. You can see here, this is our upstairs luftwärme pump, or air heating pump. Our porch tends to let in a lot of air through this way. We covered it up with snow, but it melted recently. On the stone area of the house, you can see for ventilation that there's a series of holes here. I probably would want to put a mesh over it so that we don't get so many mice and everything in here. That's something that we definitely need to do. And then we have this thing. This is our downstairs luftwärme pump. I need to remove the snow, but you can kind of see that with all the snow melting and then everything freezing again, we might have a bit of a problem here, and I definitely don't think that it's actually helping to keep everything warm, because the white cable there, that's actually the defrosting cable, and I think that needs to work properly. Now quickly here, alright, so when the snow started to hit, what me and Merja started to do was pile powdered snow up against the facade of the house where the concrete is, just covering up any gaps and all of this. The reason being is that snow can be a really good insulator if it's in the right conditions. So powder snow is made up mostly of air. What I know is that in northern areas where it gets a lot more consistently cold, there's a lot of people that pile snow up on the facade of the house to stop draft from coming in and to stop heat from necessarily escaping. And I thought that was super cool. I researched a little into it, and it turns out that powder snow in the right conditions can have an R value, which is the, I guess, thermal resistance, how difficult it is for heat to pass through an object. So powder snow has an R value of 1 or 2, depending on its quality. And so if you pile up like 12 inches of powder snow, it could be the equivalent of a certain amount of fiberglass, which I think is really interesting. I like the idea of it, and it makes me feel like we're a little bit more of an igloo. I'm going to do another garden tour in the spring when it's not a vast sea of nothingness, but here there is a flower bed, and we were using that for a small period of time when we had adequate conditions to make rhubarb and garlic and just some easier to grow crops. I'm going to show you what it looks like in the summer. It looks completely different.
You know, like such a farmer. Like these pants and...
This also looks different. It's a massive berry bush, and it's filled with different types of berries. So we have svarta vinbär, blackcurrants, I think. I'll correct it if I'm wrong. We have raspberries, we have regular vinbär, and blueberries. It's beautiful and amazing in the summer, and I love having this in our house. And hopefully it will attract some wildlife. You never know. So if we go around, you're going to see that the back facade of this house is in not as good condition as the other sides of the facade. We have a gutter that's broken, unfortunately, and so we have the gutters to replace it, but we just need to have the right conditions to get up there and actually do things. It's a 6-meter roof, and nobody wants to fall from 6 meters, so we have to make sure that we get a decent ladder. And then this will be one of the first things we fix. Keep on going around. You will see that the facade is in quite bad condition. Apparently it's not insanely bad, like we can still live with it for a while and just replace different parts of it, but it is in need of a bit of TLC at the very least. I'm going to get a drone footage, but you can kind of see that above the windows there's not great, they haven't been treated all that well. So if you see above the window you can see quite a bit of exposed wood, and I'm pretty sure that's not good for the house. And what we want to do in the summer is restore the windows. These ones in particular aren't the original windows, but we have a series of windows, including the ones downstairs, that are the original windows, and we want to restore them and make them look good and function well. And some of you were actually talking about you can make those windows triple glazed, and we would love to try that. That seems like a really good idea, because then we get to keep the original aesthetic while actually having functional windows for this temperature. The murder door looking as murdery as ever. The cat looking as murdery as ever. Then we have an electric box, so this is going to come in handy. We have an outlet here, so this is going to help for being able to use an engine heater in a car. My car has an engine heater in it, which is really common in Sweden. I really doubt it's common in England and Ireland, but I'll show the ins and outs of that in another video. And then this is a flower bed.
Oh, and by the way, I took 2 drone shots from outside the house, one of a sunset and one of a sunrise. And I wonder which one you like more out of the 2. Neither of them are edited, they're just the way they looked on camera. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but our house is situated in a forest. This wasn't always the case. In fact, this forest has only really existed since the 1950s, believe it or not. We managed to find an old photo of our property from all the way back in the 1950s, and I'll put the image up here. As you can see in the photo, this area was all farmland. And I know you're going to be thinking that the 1950s was quite a long time ago, and it was 70 years. That's the same distance as 2090 is in the future, which makes me feel old for some reason, being born in 1995. But when you really think about it, you take a step back and I show you just the vast landscape of trees. It really doesn't seem like that much. I'm so surprised by how many trees there are here. If you're thinking of buying a property, and it was at one point farmland, especially in the 1950s and the 1960s, you should get your water checked. Just make sure that it's not testing too high for things that you don't really want in your body, like Roundup and glyphosate. So we haven't directly tested the water just yet. It's on our list of things to do, but we've had a previous owner of this house test the water, and our neighbours have also tested the water, and the results came back that it was quite high in chalk, but apart from that, it's all good. Anyway, forestry is really big in this area. Well, it's really big in every area in Sweden, to be honest. Which makes sense, considering 70% of Sweden is forest. So houses end up being made from wood, furniture ends up being made from wood, everything's made from wood. I love wood. Don't clip that. So, now that we know that 70 years ago this was all farmland, which means that the forest around us is all man-made. It's planted, it's not fully natural. And I don't know if that spoils the magic for you. It doesn't for me personally. I still find it beautiful, but it didn't naturally occur. So in 2023, when we bought the house, the company that owns the forest decided to take down some trees around our area, and it was a bit of a vibe killer, I'm not going to lie, but it's actually a good thing. See, when this forest was planted back in the 1950s and 1960s, they weren't planted all that well. I'll take you around a bit, and you should be able to see that the trees are super packed close together, way more than you would expect from any naturally occurring forest. So this means when a tree gets a disease, which they do, trees get diseases, it tends to spread a lot faster, and it's because, well, 1, there's reduced airflow, and 2, the nutrients in the soil have to be dispersed over more trees, so you get more trees but they're not as strong as they otherwise could be. And that's basically what's happened here in our area. So the forestry company is going to take down trees in the area and they're going to replant them in hopefully a much better way.
This lovely building is the shed, and this shed is nearly, if not just as old as the main house here. It definitely hasn't stood up the test of time like the house has. I'll show you what the shed looks like in the summer, but it is definitely a bit sketchy. I haven't been onto the second floor of the shed either because it is, yeah, as I said, a bit sketchy. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera on this tripod and I'm just going to hoist you up so that you can see what's in there. And then I'll go up at some point when I have someone there who's able to call for help, because right now I'm alone in the forest, and I don't know, ancient Buddhist proverb, if a shed falls on Philip in the woods, does it make a sound? I feel like I know the answer. Anyway, this is the mess that is my shed. I obviously need to clean it up. I did at one point, and then a lot of woodworking things happened, and I have no shed etiquette. So I'm sorry, guys, but it is a huge shed. There are indeed electronics in the shed, but I don't know, again, if I trust them. But hey, there's a fire hydrant if something does happen. Yes, so if we go along, we have all of these areas, just like different tools that came with the house. So we have a scythe here that needs to be repaired, and I'm going to do that because we would like to have some meadow area of the garden. We have a paint area, which looks, this is probably going to be super dark for you, but it looks like this. Very just cold. A very nice painted area. Everything's kind of frozen though, so I don't know how effective it is. And then we also have things like, let's say this. Now this says, I don't know if you can read that, Ask 1964. So ask is ash in Swedish. So that would be ashwood from 1964, before either of my parents existed. So let's keep going. We have some cool workspaces here with electrics that do work. I don't know if I should trust them, but I do. And something that came with the shed that's super cool are these old European planers that are in need of restoration. That is, they look amazing. Shelves with screws, it's awesome. And just a mess. So you're welcome, guys, for subjecting you to this mess. Now, through this door is a place that I have rarely ever went, and it's where the upstairs is. Chances are it is full of spiders, so if you don't like spiders, I'll put a warning up for you if there are any spiders. Ooh, I don't know if you can, I'm trying to keep the light in as much as I possibly can. Yeah, so you can see kind of high ceilings. It's got a nice window area here, a door that you can tell has a giant gap between it, which means that the draft is obviously coming in. So let's have a look. This really dark room, which looks like a murder room, it has a shower there, which is pretty cool. A place for all the spiders to keep warm enough. It's warmer than the snow, I guess. See, it looks amazing because it's like all traditional, like wooden area with nails sticking out of it. It does kind of look like something you'd see in like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But if we go in here, now I'm not going to go up the stairs because I do not trust the structural integrity of this building, but I'm going to hoist you up here and you can see what's around. A cool window, some cool like beams that I think look pretty solid even though the roof tiles are gross. A horrible looking like midsummer chandelier. But yeah, I'm really interested in this just to see how, if there's a way to find out how structurally sound this place is, I would happily go up. I mean, I'll probably go up when I have somebody here in the house. And if it does fall down, I can probably have a record for the shortest YouTube career. So that's nice. On the books. Yes. Very bright. Wow, all the light is reflecting off the snow. Whoa, okay. Now right next to the shed there's a side shed, and when we open the door we see that the previous owners have left quite a lot of spare wood to work with, and that's been really cool for me to practice my woodwork, and obviously wood is really expensive nowadays, so I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, a pretty handy space, and we need to clean this up in the summer, but it seems like there's a lot of cool stuff in there. Now if we go around the shed, we can see there's a little cubby hole here, and it's just filled with construction materials for the shed. We see roof tiles, we see piping, and then there's this thing, which I'm not entirely sure what it is. It looks kind of like the underside of a wheelbarrow, but I'm not too sure. So if anybody could tell me the answer, that would be great. But it does seem like there's a lot of useful material here in any case. So, as with lots of other countries, when you own land in Sweden, you have a responsibility towards that land, and there's an obligation to take care of it, I guess. Let's say, for instance, that in our garden we have an invasive species of plant. Well, then it's our obligation. We're obligated to try and get rid of that invasive species of plant so it doesn't spread outside. And that's the same with forests. So if you own land and there's enough forest on that land for it to be considered forest area, it's essentially a business, and you have a lot of responsibilities that pertain to it. It's called jordbruksfastighet. Now I think on Hemnet, which is how most people buy houses in Sweden, they separate forest land that you can buy and properties that you can buy. So I don't think you're able to accidentally mess up and buy a giant forest. But the responsibilities that you have with your land meant that me and Merja felt it would be a bit more comfortable if we had less land. You can definitely get, we were looking at properties that had like 8 hectares of land. So these responsibilities could be to chop down trees to sell, to cull the smaller trees so that the bigger trees can thrive. If you have blockages on a road, if you have a road that passes through your area, it's your obligation to remove the blockage, etc, etc, etc. I don't know all of the rules for this, but I'll link you to somewhere in the description below if any of you are considering buying a forest land area. Now we're going to go from the front side of the garden to the back, which is, in my opinion, where the most potential lies. And you can see that we have a lot of open space here. And there are a few problems. So one of the apple trees has snapped in half due to the weight of the snow and it being unhealthy. But this is where a lot of our growing is likely to take place, and it's probably where we're going to be spending a lot of our time in the warmer seasons. We have a series of apple trees here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and half an apple tree over there, which is really not meant to be an apple tree, but you can see they're all really big considering they're apple trees. They're all really poorly maintained, and I'll try and bring some footage in from the summer, but it does look like they're goners, and we do want to have apple trees, so it might just be a case of us taking down the trees and replanting new apple trees while taking care of them properly. It's a shame, it really is, but if we can make this garden look perfect and beautiful, then it's worth it. But Merja, who's my partner, she has a channel of her own where she focuses on knitting and making her own clothes. And so one thing that she wants to try and do is actually grow flax seeds so that she can make her own linen. So from scratch, just be able to make her own linen clothing. That is going to be incredible, and I have no idea how it actually works, but it's going to be interesting nonetheless. And I'll link her channel in the description below, and I'll put her channel name here. But yes, so I can picture a greenhouse, I can picture all of these garden boxes for different crops. I think it's going to be incredible here, and we can only expand from here. This whole expanse is rarely ever used. In fact, I believe these branches here are stress branches as a result of a tree dying in our close proximity over in this area. That'd be definitely cool to find out, and then we can fix that issue. But then we'll have a lot more land to work with, and a tree won't be needlessly suffering. I want you to take 5 seconds and just take in the silence. You'll probably hear a woodpecker. That's all you can hear. So this next extra building here is just another shed. It hasn't got much in it, but I'll open it up for you. So we will go inside and we will see. You can kind of see. I don't know how. Somebody who's familiar with these types of things can probably tell me if it's a decent shape building. But here's what we have. Yeah. This is just the roof. We don't go in here very much, but it's just like people have put like different things here. So we have tires and just a bunch of junk. We have some old windows which are not junk that will be very useful, and some plastic linings for windows which will also become very useful. apart from that, there's nothing really in here. We don't really go in here, it's old. So yeah. Woo! So, if we make our way into this room, you'll see that we have a pretty luxurious outhouse. So this is basically where you go to take the bathroom if there wasn't a bathroom inside. So yeah, a nice mirror. So the reason I call this luxury is because we have a foam toilet seat. And if you've ever used one of these in the freezing cold, you'd know what a luxury that is. Now, will you tell me who this is? Because it's really creepy, but like, I guess it's probably someone well known. I thought initially it looked like, it was like Bikram, like yoga, the yoga instructor, but I don't know, or it's God. Either way, it's got like earrings with the peace symbol on it, bright red lips. I have no idea what this is meant to be. I feel like an ostrich. Next up is the wood shed, and this will be amazing when the chimneys are actually up and running. Now, I'm not a fan of this shed. I don't think it's in a great location, being behind the house. It's not going to be very convenient in the winter if we need to take out wood every single day. I also think it's a little bit too big and that the build quality isn't all that great. Oh, and by the way, underneath this wood pile is a giant anthill. For those in the UK and Ireland, this is really common in Sweden. I'll show you what it looks like. But I was thinking one of the things that I want to do is take this woodshed down and build a new one somewhere on the front side of the house. And then this area where the woodshed currently is could be used as a sauna area. Merja is Finnish, so sauna is her lifeblood. And sauna and ice bathing are actually something that me and Merja do a lot.
I don't know exactly, I can't really read the sign because it's in such poor condition, but it says utan säkerhetsåtgärder, which means without safety measures. I'm going to guess it has something to do with the electric cables. Just a hunch. But yeah. Yeah. Joy.
So at the start of the video, I said that there was a building that's really common in Sweden, but not so much in the UK and Ireland, and I asked you if you knew what it was. So for those of you who don't know, it's called jordkällaren in Swedish, which means earth cellar in English, or it can also be called a root cellar. And basically, it's meant to be able to store foods that would otherwise go bad in the warm weather. Being underground, it's meant to have a consistent temperature that basically acts like a fridge, so you can store things like root vegetables in there, you can store jams, you can store, I guess, wines and cheeses, I don't see why not, and fruits. So this is really common to find in Sweden, not so much in England and Ireland as I said, but this particular root cellar needs a lot of TLC. There's a lot of moisture on the inside and that defeats the purpose. It's meant to be dry on the inside. We think there's probably issues with the ventilation on top. That's something that we need to fix in the summer. But I have a feeling when we really come to be self-sufficient, this will be an essential for us, and it's an amazing thing to have. It is definitely one of the things that we looked for when we were buying a house in Sweden. Ooh. It smells like mold right now, and it's not meant to do that. So within this room, look, we have another murder door, which is quite cool. The ice on the roof looks amazing, huh? It's not meant to do that, I don't think. And I don't know if you can tell this, but there's a lot of spiders on these little black dots, these little spiders. But we're going to try and get in this murder door, because I wasn't able to the last time. Now, there really isn't much to this. It's literally just a room that we get to store things in. Oh, it smells so bad though. So, let's take a look. It's going to get very dark in here. The lights don't necessarily work. But you see that there's a hole here. Now this hole is meant to be ventilation, and I think that we have an issue with it right now, which is why this whole place smells like mold, and it's just really not great. So I'm not going to spend too much time in here. Hey little buddy. So trust me, in the summer it's actually way more pretty because there's flowers and there's bushes growing all along this. It looks magical. It looks like the Shire. If I can get up here, I'm going to try and show you the ventilation that we need to try and inspect. Can I stand on this? Ugh. Now this pipe here at the top of the hill, this needs to be fixed. This is the ventilation pipe. Obviously something is wrong with it, despite the snow being on it, of course, because not enough ventilation is getting through underground. So it could be a whole series of things, to be honest. I hope that this root cellar isn't a goner, but we'll figure it out. Now we get to this little shed here, which is just our water pump. How this works is that you go through the door and then you go about 3 meters down under the ground, and then there's our water pump. And the water goes underground all the way over to our house there, and it also goes to a neighbouring property, which is an abandoned property, this way, underground. So we have received questions regarding how do you keep your water pipes from freezing, and this is one of the ways. So the water is held underground, so there's more consistent temperatures. And also we have a cable that runs through our water pipes that basically, I don't know specifically how it works, but it's meant to heat up the pipes enough for them not to freeze. At least not to freeze all that often unless you're in really extreme conditions. When we had a small issue with our water pipes leaking, it was during -28, -29 degree weather. So we share water with our neighbour. It's not communal water, it's private from a well. And we also do the same thing with our waste system, our septic tank, which is also shared, and that's not communal either. So now you know what our primary intentions are for the land that we have currently right now. But if I take you up into the sky, you can see that there's an abandoned property here. The house is completely unlivable, the land is very small. And something that me and Merja have been considering is to purchase this property as well and see if we can buy back some of the forested area from the company that owns it. Because that's something that's completely possible in Sweden, supposing that both parties are interested in the exchange of value. And so this would just be a natural expansion of our property if we felt that we were able to handle more. And there would be so much potential here for us. Did you hear that? That's all the snow falling off the roof. It's plus degrees, so like all the snow is coming off the roof right now. So that wraps up the final house tour video, which is the surrounding perimeter of the property that I managed to buy for 1.3 million Swedish kronor, or blah blah blah. Now, if you liked this video or you found the information useful, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed to the channel, because it really does help a lot. Now, that last video kicked off and I freaked out a little, I'm not gonna lie, but the comments were absolutely amazing. Nearly every single comment was positive, all of them filled with useful information, and so I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys, for all the support. So next week is going to be a super big week for me because I'm starting a new UX job in a Swedish company that speaks primarily Swedish. So it's going to be really interesting and it's going to be a big learning curve. I'm going to be exhausted after all of it. But that means that I'm going to think about my upload schedule. I reckon I'm going to be uploading every 2 weeks because it gives me time to not go insane. I want to make sure that I'm doing cool things in my videos and that I'm not absolutely drained. So 2 weeks seems like the most appropriate upload schedule. But that ends it from me. I want to say thank you again. It's been amazing. I really can't wait to get going on other content. And yeah, stay tuned. There's a lot to do here. Until then, catch you later.